welcome to Tutorials by Decade. My name is Decade, and in this video we're actually going to dive into Unity. From last video we talked about how to make a game design document and why game design is important. In this video we are going to go over Unity a little bit and get Unity set up and actually create our first scripts. So with that being said, our goals for today is to set up Unity, create an organized folder structure, and prepare the scene for and settings for development. So I am not going to go over how to get Unity or how to open up or start a new project. To be honest with you, there's thousands of videos on that, including one of the first videos I've ever done is on how to do that. So long story short, download Unity. You'll get the Unity hub. You'll see a little button that says new project. You're going to click on that. Make sure you do 2D, name it something, save it somewhere, and then hit create, depending on your computer and your processor, your graphics card, and all that. It could take a while for it to load, but when it loads, you're going to get something like this. Now, as of this recording, I have upgraded to Unity 6.1, which is actually 6000.1.15F1. If you're using a newer version of Unity, in other words, if you're watching this video a few months in the future, I can't guarantee that everything will be the same. A lot of the concepts will be similar, but sometimes when Unity does upgrades and updates, they change things around. So if you want to do everything exactly the way I'm doing it, you want to make sure you're using the same version of Unity that I have. If you're using an older version of Unity, same concept. I can't guarantee that everything will be the same. A lot of the concepts will still be the same, but it doesn't mean everything will look and or act exactly the same way. So I'm giving you that warning now that if for whatever strange reason things aren't working right for you, check your Unity version and make sure you're using the same version that I am. Otherwise, it could just be a change that was made in the version, and that's why you're having these issues. With that being said, let's go over Unity a little bit. So on the left-hand side here, you have what's called the hierarchy. So in the hierarchy, you're going to have everything that is in your scene. So this very first thing right here, where it says sample scene, that is your scene. That is what you're seeing on this screen right here. As you can see up here, let me move that out of the way a little bit. We'll just dock that right there. It says scene. So everything that is in this scene is going to be listed right here. Starting out fresh, you should have a main camera and a global light 2D. That comes standard. You can delete those. Well, don't delete those, but you can delete those. You can change those. You can rename those. There's a lot of different things that you can do. If you right-click in this little area, you'll see this little drop-down menu. There's a bunch of different things that you can do here. You can add a 2D object, 3D object, different effects, lights, all this different stuff, which we will go over as we get to those. On the right-hand side, you're going to see what's called the inspector. If you click on any of your things here, you're going to get stuff over here, and it's going to be different for everything that you click on. So for instance, we're on the main camera. We have a transform, the camera itself, an audio listener, and a predetermined script that is for the camera. This is where you're going to change and edit anything that you can for each of these items. At the bottom here, you're going to see projects. So these are all the folders and files and objects that are in your overall project. All right. So what we're going to do first is where it says assets. Let me just go over to my notes here. We're going to right click on assets. We're going to go to create. And the very first thing on here should be folder. So we're going to create a folder and we're going to name it scripts. All right. And we're going to repeat that process. We're going to create another folder and we're going to name it sprites. We're going to do it again. Create folder animations. We're going to do it again and create prefabs. We're going to do one more. Create UI. We'll do another one. Call it audio. Not sure if we're going to need it, but we're going to create another one and name it materials. So this is what we're going to do to help keep things somewhat organized. The more organization you have, the better. So if there's folders you think you need, feel free to add them. If you feel that there's folders you're not going to need, do not use them, just delete them, whatever the case may be. So we're going to go to sprites here. We're going to double click on that folder. It's going to say this folder is empty. What we're going to do now is we are going to import everything that we have art-wise into that folder. So if you've created your own, cool. If you're using mine, just drag the 4 folders over: characters, objects, UI, and world. That's all we're going to do for now for this setup. What we are going to do now, excuse me, is we're going to add some packages. So if we go up here to the top where it says window, we're going to click on that. We are going to go to package management and then package manager. And this little guy should open up. All right, as you scroll through here, there's a bunch of different packages that are pre-installed already. What we want to do is we want to go to Unity registry. And where is it? SceneMachine, there it is. So you want to find SceneMachine, you want to click on that, and you want to install that, because we will be using SceneMachine. Once that installs, we are going to find one more package, which honestly should already be installed, but we're going to make sure. We are going to find input system, and it is already installed. So we are going to use the new input system, which again I will explain once we get to that portion of it. But if you go to input system and it is not installed, you are going to want to install it. Once it is installed, Unity is going to have to reset, and then once Unity does that, you'll be good to go. So those are the packages we need. Up here where it says game, we're going to click on that. And right here, you should see a resolution of some sort. You can create your own, or you can do any one of these. I think it would be best if we do it in full HD, so 1920 by 1080. So make sure you change that to that. Everything else we're going to stay as is. Now we're going to go to edit, and we are going to go to project settings. Open up on my other screen for whatever reason, but there it is. So depending on where it opens up, this is the input actions menu for the new input system. Again, we're going to cross that bridge when we get there. For now, just ignore that. What we want to go to is physics 2D, general settings, and where it says gravity, we want to change that. We want to change Y to 0. This is a top-down game. There shouldn't be any gravity. However, if you are doing like a platformer or something where you need gravity, this is where you would change the gravity. Y is your up and down. X is your left and right. And unless for whatever strange reason you're doing some sort of weird game where your gravity goes left to right or vice versa, X should always be 0. There are some other things in here that we will go over at a later date, but for now, this is what we want to do just to get initially set up. With that out of the way, we are actually going to create, well, we're going to go to our scenes folder here and see where it says sample scene. We're going to right click that, and we're just going to rename that test scene, because this is where we're going to test everything. It's going to compile. And one other thing we're going to do is we're going to go to file, and we are going to go to build and run. No, not build and run. Build profiles. Jeez. We want to make sure that test scene is in this list, which it is. If for whatever reason it is not, you want to click open scene list and then add. Make sure that check mark is there. All right. So now that that is all out of the way, one of the other things that I want to show you is if you're not happy with the layout, there's a layout button up here. You can change all these different layouts. So like there's 2x3, there's 4-way split. I created this one, but there's tall, there's wide. Right now I'm just using default, but what I did with default is I actually why won't it let me grab that? Oh, we'll stick with default for now, but what I had originally was the hierarchy going all the way down, and then project and all that stuff was under here. Maybe I saved it as mine. I did. So we'll keep it for default, so that way it looks the same. That's all I really did, again, was just extend the hierarchy down, but we'll keep it here. But there's different layouts that you can do. If you have a second screen or whatever, you can grab any one of these and drag them around, or you can have them float and be their own separate thing. You can move them to a second screen. You can do whatever it is that you want to do or need to do to get it set up so that way you're comfortable with everything. Again, for now, we're just going to keep it on default. So now we actually get to create some scripts, which I accidentally moved all this stuff into scripts instead of into sprites. So we're going to just drag those to there. There we go. And now we're going to go to our script folder. Again, organization is very important. At the very beginning, you might be thinking, oh, well, I know where all this stuff's at. But when you have 100, 200, 500, 1,000 scripts all in one folder, it's going to get real confusing real fast. So in our scripts folder, we are going to right click and we are going to create a new folder, and we're going to call this Game Management. We're going to double click on that where it says this folder is empty. We're going to right click, create, and now we're going to create our first script. So we're going to go to a mono behavior script, click on that. We are going to name this the Game Manager. And then I don't have my Visual Studio open, so give me a minute here to do that, but that's actually a perfect time for me to explain some things. So what a game manager is exactly what it sounds. It manages your game. Every game should have a game manager. No matter how simple or complicated your game is, you're going to be doing a lot of different things in the game manager. For now, we are just going to do some basic stuff, but trust me when I say we are going to be adding a lot of stuff in here. So we can highlight all this stuff and delete it. And the first thing we are going to do is we are going to make this game, or a singleton. So what a singleton is an object or a script that is persistent throughout the entire game, and there can only be one of them. So in other words, if you have a game manager and you want said game manager to be in every single scene, and you only want one game manager, you're going to want to create a singleton. So in order to create a singleton, the first thing we're going to do is create a public static game manager, and we're going to call it instance. Okay. So what this is a variable. It is public, meaning that any other script can access this. It is static, which is the actual variable itself. This is something that's never going to change. Well, I'm sorry, we're making it static, which is meaning it's never going to change. This is the variable game manager. Variables could be a whole bunch of different things, and we will go over that more once we get into different variables. And then the very last thing is what you named it. This is the basic pattern for a singleton, so you will see this a lot. The next thing we're going to do is do a private void awake. So with these scripts, there are different things like awake, start, on enable, and all that other stuff. This is when, like, as soon as the game starts, or as soon as, in this case, awake, as soon as the game object becomes active, it's going to run a script. Again, we will go over more of this when we get into it. Right now, we just want to create our very, very base game object and all, or game manager, and all we're doing is just making it a singleton. So if all of this is overwhelming for you, I will explain it to you in other videos as we do it more often. I just want to get this game manager going. So what we're going to do is put an if statement in here, and we're going to do if instance exclamation equals, and I'll explain what this is in a second, null, and, which is 2 ampersands, instance is not equal to this. So an if statement is just that if. If this is true, then all of this stuff happens. So if all of this stuff here is true, or in this case not true, again, I'll explain that in a minute, then everything that's in between these brackets is going to happen. So what we're doing is we're checking if the instance, which is, again, game manager, which is, again, our actual script, if it is exclamation equals, this essentially stands for not. In other words, no, it's false. So if instance is not null, null is another way of saying empty or non-existent. So if there is a game manager, essentially, and if that game manager is not this, what we're going to do is we are going to destroy the game object. And then we're going to return. So destroy game object is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to destroy the game object. That way, there's not more than one of these. What we're going to do after that is an else statement. We're going to do else instance equals this, and then don't destroy onload game object. So what we're doing here is we're creating the singleton. We're checking to see if there's already an instance, and if that instance is already this. If it is, then we're going to or not already this. So in other words, if there is already an instance in existence and that instance is not this, we are going to destroy ourselves. And then we're going to return and do nothing else. However, if there is no instance, or if the instance is this, then we're going to double check to make sure the instance is this. And we're going to do not destroy onload game object. So the reason why we want to do not destroy onload is anytime you load a scene, a new scene, it is going to destroy everything and then rebuild everything. We don't want that to happen with a game manager because there's going to be some information that is going to be persistent throughout all the scenes that we don't want to destroy. There are ways that you can do it where if you destroy something, you can bring it back with all the same stats and everything else, but that requires a crap ton of code and a crap ton of work, and if you mess one teeny tiny little thing up, it just screws everything up. So we want to make a singleton here so that way it just keeps everything and doesn't screw it all up. If you haven't done so already on a Windows or any other type of computer, you want to hit Control S to save it. On a Mac, it would be Command S. You want to make sure this line over here is green. Then we can shrink this down. And we are going to go to our scripts folder. We are going to right click. We are going to create another mono behavior script. And we are going to call this one SceneLoader. And for whatever reason, my Visual Studio opened up, but did not open up the scene loader. So we're just going to go back and double click on scene loader. Again, this is going to be a very, very basic script to start with, but we are going to add more to it later. One of the first things we should do, and depending on which version of Visual Studio you're using, it should automatically do this, but just to be safe, we're going to go up to using and type in using Unity Engine Scene Management. Then down here, we are going to do a public void load scene. We call string scene name. Then here we're going to do scene manager dot load scene name. Now this is just, again, a very, very, very basic scene loader. I wanted to get that in there. We are going to expand a lot on all of that, and I'm going to explain a lot of all this stuff here later. But what we want to do now is we want to right click, go to in hierarchy, right click, go to create empty, and we're just going to put in game manager. Set the position to 0, 0, 0 if it's not already there. Then we're going to drag the game manager over, and we're going to drag the scene loader over to inspector. And that is all that we are going to do for this video. This is, again, just getting things set up. In our next video, we are going to go over adding a player character and trying to make that character move. We're not going to worry about animation or anything yet. We are just going to add the player character and get said player character to move. What I want from you guys is to try to create your own project from scratch. Get it set up, and get everything ready to go for the next video. If you see this little star next to test scene, that just means we haven't saved the scene. Again, Control S or Command S will save that. But get everything set up. If you want to work ahead, if you've worked in Unity before, you can go right ahead and work ahead. Bring your character into a scene, get them all set up and ready to go. Any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to ask down in the comment section below. Don't forget to join our Discord. Again, a lot more help and a lot more of a community feel there. Plus, you can just hang out and chat if you want. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, as I have videos like this coming out all the time, and I don't want you to miss anything. And with that being said, I'm going to end it here. So as always, thank you.